I have to tell you, I listened to last week's call since I wasn't on, and it like totally moved my heart and soul. And I am so glad that you captured and held each other up in all the unique and awesome ways that you did last week. It was very, very cool. And thank you to my teammate, Chris, for facilitating that. I did have a good day off. I went and spent bunches of money on new fabric, so I have more quilts to make. I'm so excited. If you know me, you know that that's true. So. All right, well, enough about me. I am excited to be getting together with you, and yet a little sad. Believe it or not, this is our 21st call. Can you believe that? I cannot believe we've been hanging together for 21 weeks. So at the Eden Home office, we thought, you know, maybe it's time to like change it up a little bit. So we wanted to give you a little break. But we do want to, I would love to, before we end the call, just kind of hear from you guys about what do you need most going forward? Do you want to keep meeting? Is it every other week? Is it once a month? What makes sense? Do you want focused topics? Do you want us to bring in special speakers? Do you want to just keep it being a support group like that? So just be in the back of your mind kind of processing that. And we'll come back to it at the end to kind of get your feedback on what do we do next. But yeah, 21 weeks you have all committed to being together. I am so honored to know all of you and to be hanging with you for this long. This has been great to walk through this challenging time together. So thank you for your consistency and being a part of it. The other thing I wanted to celebrate is this is the 140th day of the pandemic. If that helps you feel good or bad, I don't know, but I've been kind of tracking like how many days has this been going on, and so we're on day number 140. Holy cow. Holy cow. All right, well, welcome. If you have your webcam, please turn it on because we love seeing your lovely faces. And welcome back. And I guess I'll just start by opening up the floor. What's on your mind? What would you like to share today? What you got going on?
Well, I'll start.
I think, whoops.
Oh, go ahead. No, go start.
All right, Jackie. I just think it's interesting that I'm seeing a trickling of reopenings coming out. Brookdale has posted one that I received, and so I think that's promising that we're headed maybe in that direction. Of course, here in California, we're still seeing spikes, so it makes me nervous. I don't want to do anything too early, but I have people who I know need hair care, and I know that's one of the things that they've just said is off the table. And I was visiting a lady yesterday, her roots are showing, and it's just not her, and her hair is long, but so is mine. Mine's never been this long, I don't think. So, anyway, that is a little encouraging that we're starting to see things kind of gradually, and I think gradual is important. Mm-hmm. It's gradually opening up.
Oh, congratulations. Wow, that feels good to hear you say that. I can hear the energy in your voice. Very good, very good. Jackie.
So I'm going to not follow up on Stars, but I love her comment. I just wanted to say thank you to this group because, and if I get teary, I'm really sorry. I would not have made it through 7 weeks without my family, without this group of people. And though some of us know each other in person and some of us do not, and some of us are just acquainted from like Pioneer Network or those things, I feel like you're all just kind of an extension of my friend tree now. And if I were to ever be able to be with any of you in person, my heart would be full. So I really just wanted to take this moment to say that because that was the hardest 7 weeks of my life, being away from my family. And the virtual love that you all showed and the welcoming, every Friday I knew I had that, and it just made it so that I could go another day and take care of my members. So I want to thank you all for that.
Jackie, I've said this to you before, but man, what you did That is just totally amazing. And I'm glad that we were able to support you through that. That's one of the good things about what this group has done for all of us. We've all felt a great deal of support, and I love that about this group.
Yep, I do. I feel that too. Here for each other. That's what this is about. All of you. Very cool. Imelda, we can't hear you. It looks like maybe you're talking.
I had a question. In your various communities, how do you deal with communicating with other residents if there is a death from COVID? Or do you communicate it at all?
Fortunately, Imelda, we haven't had that happen at Piners. I know that there are other homes in our area that have experienced that. We have one that had 3 deaths, and I don't know internally how they have dealt with that. I know myself at Piners, I would want to communicate that. I think it needs to be communicated to families and elders so that they know that that has happened, but we haven't had to cross that bridge.
I think that's the better way.
I'm sorry, Imelda, go ahead.
No, you.
I was just going to ask what your experience has been, Imelda. Part of my career has been working in emergency rooms where I've seen it done really, really well, and I've seen it done really, really badly. And I'd like to hear what your experience has been with that.
Well, interestingly, our community of almost 100 sisters met via Zoom Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And one of the issues that came up was we've had several deaths since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've not been given any details. And so the issue was, you know, we're a community, and why not share this? And we want to know. So the answer we got was, we don't want to give out false information. And it takes a while for the cause of death to be made public, which I can understand from a legal point of view. But I think through the discussions and the questions that were raised, there was an understanding on those that communicate with us that we fully support the efforts at our nursing home, and we know we truly know they've done everything right, but we've still had some deaths. And if there was well, this is different for a community, a family, rather than a public nursing home community. But when we've known each other for 50, 60, 65 years, and then we just get a notice that she died without any explanation of saying, sister's been on hospice for the last 3 months. So I think there was an understanding from a sense of family that we need that for our own grieving too. So that was that. Someone made a comment, oh, this is an interesting thing. Someone said, you know, the sisters who have tested positive don't necessarily want everybody to know. And I thought, and rightfully so, that's private information. But then they indicated that there must be some notation in this licensed nursing home that indicates if the person living in that room is positive. And I just wondered, is there, what's the standard practice? Because it seems like a violation of privacy. I don't know, but I'd be happy to hear your comments.
A really good question, Imelda.
Well, I can speak from the perspective of a resident. Um, and one of the reasons why I rather somewhat regret having chosen to become a resident is that we're treated like children. So we're no longer co-thinkers, co-workers. Now, there are regulatory things and they're designed to protect us children. So, HIPAA protects people's privacy. You can't share information. Our provider has told us that they only share the information that they're required by law to share. And so they shared certain information with family members, but not with us residents, because the law sort of requires them to share with family members. But my experience from my business career is that there's no substitute for transparency. All business relationships are a matter of mutual trust and candor. And if candor is not there, and if there's a deception or a game where you try to outsmart the other chap, then that business generally tends to either wither or just sort of drift, and it doesn't grow. So the great businesses tend to be trustworthy. And we saw 4 business people on our screens this week. And I think if I were to ask you to do a poll, I think you'd all be able to rank them by their moral compass. My experience from both business and from investing is that if the leadership has a strong moral compass and a commitment to transparency, candor, and openness, then that's a business that's going to thrive. It will win customers' loyalty, and the word of mouth will favor the business and it will grow. So the fact that many in this industry feel very alarmed by the prospect of litigation. So they say, well, we don't want to say anything because we might be in trouble. Well, maybe they ought to be litigated. Maybe they haven't been really wise, and so what we're seeing increasingly is that the business of caring for elders, to use the Eden terminology, is increasingly becoming one where it only cares for those who are failing and have no choice, because people who have no choice are losing their confidence that this is an enterprise that can be trusted. And we certainly have that here. We had an employee who tested positive for COVID, and we weren't told. And so we were just going about our things. If we knew that COVID was present, we didn't have to know who it was, but it might counsel some degree of caution that would be appropriate if we know that the infection is beginning to be present in our community. But by withholding that information, individual responsibility, individual decision-making is impaired, and others take over and decide for us. And that is demeaning. And also it creates a temptation for those who do have the decision power to begin to make the decisions in their favor. So we've seen that we happen to have entry fees. Some of our entry fees around the time I came in were invested in a speculative venture in Mexico, and the money was all lost. A Mexican developer approached them and said, "You've got all this money from these fees. We'll get you good return." They gave them money, the money's lost. There is no real accountability. There's a sort of a regulatory veneer, but it's a very reactive regulatory structure. So the thing that got me active was moving in. I came out of a regulated industry. I worked in insurance, came into this business and finding, good heavens, they're serving this vulnerable, gullible population taking their life savings from them, and there's no accountability, and they can rationalize using it however they wish. Now, that's something that I think really is going to have to change. But already the market is driving the change, because people my age they don't know what the matter is. They just know that there's something not quite right. And so they increasingly are saying, we don't want to go there. We don't want to subject ourselves to that. So I think, Imelda, you've really put your finger on something. Either you treat adults like adults, or there's a loss of trust.
Just very briefly in response, I'm fully aware of the requirements of HIPAA and the right of the individual to privacy. And the way I dealt with that when I directed a community was, if a person was going to be sent out to the hospital or something happened, I would ask them, what do you want the community to know? And I remember one person saying, why would I want to tell them? And I said, well, because they care about you. They would pray for you. Oh, okay. But there is that balance. And I think it just is, being proactive, and especially if we want to create and deepen a sense of community, that we take that proactive step, which does still honor privacy. And if they say, I don't want them to know nothing, then we honor that too.
Yeah, and I've heard that, Imelda, that there's sometimes when people move in that kind of conversation happens, that's just a part of, now you're joining a community, you're going to form friendships, and something may become that you need to be at the hospital or in a rehab, or something happens. To what degree do you want information shared, and what might that look like? Or do you want us to come back to you at that moment and ask? And because it is a very individual thing, and we certainly have had in other infectious agents and things happen in life, that the minute it got revealed so-and-so has that infection, it wasn't good either, so we have to pay attention to what people want and treat each person individually. Now, Eva, I don't know if you want to share out loud, but I know at your community, you had some folks that have developed the COVID infection, and you actually have kind of put them in their own area to live in until they're over it, right?
Yeah, we have a special isolation unit, and it wasn't publicly communicated. We had quite a bit of loss, and it wasn't always publicly communicated, but the elders that share rooms together did form friendships. Yes. And they found out that their friend had passed. And so we tried to give as much support as possible and recognize that, and let them know that, reassure them that we were going to do everything we could to make sure they were okay, but also acknowledge that they had this friendship and this love between them, and that it needed to be, they needed to go through the grieving process, and give them the ability to do that and the support to work through that. But we did, and it was staff as well. I mean, it was really, we lost a lot. We lost a lot, and it was one life is too many, but we're a bigger community, so we got hit pretty hard in the beginning, and they were very poignant losses, because they were very vibrant and very well seen in the community, and then all of a sudden they were stricken and they were gone. So it was very difficult, but we do have a special isolation unit, and it is, most people are aware of who moves there. So not so much the community members, but at least the staff. And so they know they're in the isolation unit and why they're there. And, fortunately, this next wave of COVID has been less traumatic, and people aren't passing, they're just positive. So that has slowed down, thank goodness. But, I'm hoping that when this is all over, we had done a memorial once before, where we celebrated the lives of those who have passed and allowed someone to present a flower at a memorial. So I'm hoping that when we can join together as in larger groups, that we can do something like that to celebrate their lives.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say something positive here for the group, because I threw sort of a bomb in there. But I just responding to you, Eva. One of the things, I've lived here now 14 years, and the loss is something, it's end of life is part of aging, and so loss is a constant companion, and I think that's very difficult and very emotionally draining. But with this group, one of the things I love about all of you, and I love you all dearly very much, is your giving hearts. You are the epitome of what we're trying to become. And it's sort of sad. I mean, there are 19 of you here now, some including the staff people from Eden. And, this is an industry that has thousands and sometimes balance sheet interests and money interests, even among the nonprofits, perhaps particularly among the nonprofits, take precedence over welfare issues. So these are things to say. So I just want to say that I love you all. I'm going to have to run because I'm going to stay with you for a few more minutes, but I have a conflict at 10 o'clock. Things just tend to pile up and pile up. But I've loved this group, and it's sort of sad that it may be coming. I hope that there's something comparable that takes its place to move us forward in a positive way. But this has been so helpful trying to deal with this time of trauma for ourselves, our nation, and our world.
Yep. Yeah, we love you too, Jack. It's been a delight to meet you and get to know you a little bit. Very cool. And Eva, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know you guys have been through a lot, so thank you. Go, Chris.
I just wanted to point out that this really interesting topic about truth and transparency and trust. And I don't know if, and maybe Meredith, if you could pop the Evolve link to the free Eden Moments. So we're doing these Eden Moments. A lot of you know, a lot of you have done them. If you haven't done them, I want you to do one. But we just had one by Deek Cateau, who's the CEO of AG Roads in Atlanta. And I thought it was very powerful. And he talked about truth, transparency, and trust as an organization. And Jack, you really made me think about that, and Imelda. So I really think it's worth a watch. I think it's 6 minutes. But he just really says how important that is, and especially in our industry. And I was really impressed. I mean, I think Deke is wonderful anyway as a leader, but I really enjoyed his Eden moment. So if you wanted to give it a little look, I think he really faces something that, we really go back and forth on. It's easier to keep things under wraps. It's easier to stay in our old ways. Status quo, because we can keep a tight rein on everything.
Yeah.
And we're in control, and that's what I've seen. So, what we're kind of not up against, but what we're looking to broaden and change with empowerment and all that is, yeah, and you're right, Jack, there's 19 of us on this call. I think Denise and I feel the same way. We have about 200 registry members. It should be 2,000 registry members. We have this great empowered teams training that talks about growing teams to be empowered. Every single person, everybody, we just wish we could spread this far and wide, and there is a lot of constraints and the things that we all know about. So, but I just wanted to point out Deke's talk. Thank you. Meredith put into our new Evolve online learning, we have some free material, and one of them is the Eden Moments. And so if you want to go on there and check out our new learning system too, but that's one way to see it. You can also see it on our Facebook page and on our website and on YouTube.
They're everywhere. I like it. So I want to keep going back to what Imelda was saying, because Imelda, you bring up principle 6, which is all about the meaning in life and the major life passages that we go through, and how come we're so afraid to make death a part of life. It is equal. I mean, it's part of who we are. And I feel really bad for people right now because you can't gather. So like, I know some communities that when an elder passes, everything is cleaned up, and then everybody gathers around that person's bedside and they do prayers or sing songs or, you know, whatever makes sense for them, for their culture. And you can't do that right now. And so I'm curious as to, you know, and they would have a procession line out the front door as the person leaves, beautiful quilts that they cover their bodies with. Just really, people have invested so much time in just making that whole end of life and honoring somebody's life, not the wait until that we've had 3 months worth of death and then let's celebrate it. They do it right in that moment, and they just really make it special for the community. Has anybody figured out how to adapt their process right now so that you can still do that? Because telling people that someone has died does not violate HIPAA. Telling people why they've died does violate HIPAA if you don't have permission. But that they've died, that's not a secret. So I'm just curious, what have people done to try to help people process that? Both the employees that are with them as well as their neighbors and friends. Have you figured out some good ways to do that? I mean, I would think a Zoom meeting might be a really great way to get people together if the technology's spread out and have something virtual.
Well, and I was going to say, we always have some kind of visitation or whatever you call it, a vigil or a wake. And we still do that at our convent, and it's live streamed so all of us can watch it. We haven't gotten smart enough yet to be able to participate, but I know that's possible. But that might be something that communities could do, would be to engage staff and family that way in some kind of Zoom remembrance, which brings to mind something else. And I know, you know, I'm going to say this, people think sometimes that sisters' issues are different. They're not. No. They're not. They present in a different facet, perhaps, but they're not different. But one thing that some of us commented as we remembered the sisters who had died was, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I thought, this is not unique. This happens in communities across the country. So it was an incentive for us to share more about knowing the resident and sharing that while they're still with us.
You know, when I know that some people that I've known that have passed away, that there's a website, a web page, something you can create, and then people can go out and comment from far and wide about that person and the life and the impact they've had on their life. But I've never set that up. Does anybody done that? What does that look like? Does the family have to do it? Can anybody do it? I'm just wondering if that's another resource that we haven't tapped into yet.
I've never heard of that.
My nephew set that up when my mother passed, and it was very helpful to me. I don't know if anyone else went on it. So I went on and I posted some pictures that I had, and I made some comments, and it just kind of sits there. I every now and then will revisit it, and it feels good to revisit. So I think just depending on the situation, and unfortunately I didn't set it up, my nephew did it. I just was able to take advantage of it. So I don't know the details of how you do it, but it is a memorial page.
Yeah, because I know like you can't share pens and you can't have paper floating around, and I know that that's all kind of like constricted right now, but go Jack.
A lot of funeral homes and newspapers provide that service and charge for it. It is a service that some altruistic outfit might make available more widely. It could be a truly positive thing. I know for some people, Facebook serves that purpose, but it doesn't have the permanent thing. And for somebody my age, I often think of friends from a long time ago, and I wonder, are they still alive? And I go out and do searches, and it's sort of fun to find those legacy sites and find out how they were memorialized. So anyway, I'm gonna have to leave with that.
Okay, well, thanks, Jack, for letting us know that. Oh, here we go. So Tina says you can create a web page along with a QR code that people can update. Ooh. Yeah, that's a great idea. Just trying to think of other ways to.
Sorry. So you can create, and actually they have them now. I mean, it's you can do it as like a living or a memorial that's ongoing, so people can create their stories ongoing, and it's really neat. I know this sounds like kind of a strange thing, but we there's a place here that we go to because it's just like it's called a botanical cemetery, and all of the headstones there actually have a QR code on them. I just think it's very peaceful and it's a beautiful place to go. But people worked, the families really created this story on an ongoing basis as people were passing. And it's really neat because you can walk around and scan, and it just shares the importance of people's stories and putting that together. And there's places where you can write a message to the family, or you can write a message, you know, of remembrance on a chalkboard near the headstone. And it's just really beautiful to see how people remember in so many different ways. So
Nice, thank you. Pascal, I'm seeing that maybe you have a question. There you are.
Yeah. No, I don't have a question. I'm listening to this very intently, but these certainly the web pages I find are helpful for, my family is in France, so it's not always easy to communicate with people with the 6 hours lag time. So to have a place where you can go and find the information that, when you're ready for it and catch up and is certainly very, very useful. But I will take the opportunity to say that, I've really enjoyed the process of listening to you. I'm learning a lot. It's also good to hear people who have similar concerns about life and the well-being of others. And I hope somehow we can have regular encounters, as maybe not every week, but until we have the next crisis, although I'm not sure we're out of this one. But I certainly would look forward to participating in regular calls in the future.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. Meredith Bauman, you guys have been able to keep going with your honor guard. That's awesome.
Today was the first time that we were able to sing with masks and face shields and gather in a room of someone who is in the dying process. And it is heartfelt, just an honor to be able to do that. And we've missed it, not being able to do it. And so as long as we have masks on, we can sing. and it sounded wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that had to feel good to the heart. Yeah, it's funny. Again, when you get into Principle 6 and you start talking about these rituals and how powerful and how meaningful, and we talk about how meaning is so essential to our human health, both our mental health and our physical health, that I just think that, anything that we can restore in some fashion is really important, especially right now. Go, Lisa.
Yeah, if I could just take a half a step back to the idea of death notifications, I think this whole conversation is so important because it really does go to the heart of what is meaningful. We're really talking about relationships. And of course, having conversations ahead of time about what you would and what you wouldn't want is the key to the whole thing. But anytime you can avoid just saying so-and-so died, just that bluntly, and that's what I mean by, a very difficult and potentially traumatic notification that's going to leave people wondering and worrying. and just cushion it with a little more information. And there are ways to do that without violating HIPAA. Even something like saying, you know, Mrs. Smith has been a part of our community for X number of years, and then adding in whatever information you could add. She was a part of our quilting club. You know, some of you may not have seen her for a few weeks. If you can say, without violating HIPAA, you may know that she hasn't been feeling well, and it is with sadness that we want to tell you that last Thursday she did pass away. Yeah, I mean, you can, by telling a bit of a story and starting kind of big and then bringing it in to what happened more recently and then that she died, you're really preparing people. You're putting the death into the context of the person's life and their life in the community and their relationship. It does cushion it, and it does make a difference for people. It gives them something to anchor that news to. It puts it into the context of the meaning of the death. It's easier than just hearing, well, she's died or she's gone. I hope that's helpful. It's something that did make a difference in my work, both in nursing homes and in hospital settings. You have to figure that out, again, with advanced conversations where possible and having somebody present who knows how to do that. But just something I wanted to throw into the conversation.
Yep. Go, Sherry.
Me. Did you unmute? So Chris is going to tell about what we have done and are still doing. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. We do a few different things here. We have end-of-life volunteers that will come in when a person is end-of-life and sit with them. We do music with them. We read from the Bible with them. We just hold their hand. We also have compassion visits, which means we can bring a family member in and have them sit there and be with them. And we also have in the front of our building, we have a tree of life. And on this tree, it's a huge plaque. We do put everyone's picture and the date that they have passed on it. So anyone going by that, any neighbor going by that can look at that and see, you know, at the pictures and see why they haven't seen someone for a while, or, you know, we can take it down off the wall and they can go through it and look at it and ask questions. Our policy here is that we are just honest with everyone. If somebody asks us, you know, what happened, where is so-and-so, haven't seen them for a while, you know, they go to their room, they're not there, you know, we just tell them right up front, this person, you know, was very sick, they had passed away, especially when the first round of COVID came through here, because it was so fast and furious that people just, and they had to stay in their rooms. It just, they just quite didn't realize what was going on until probably about 2 months later, when they were able to start coming out of their rooms, and then they realized people weren't there anymore that they, you know, were with, or their friends. And so that was a whole experience in our, for that. That was something else. We also have a chaplain on staff here, and she is extremely helpful, you know, helping everyone here get, find out what's going on. She's always right there when someone is end of life, helping the family, helping that person, helping their friends. And she also does a really nice job of posting on each neighborhood in our community when someone has passed. You know, this is so-and-so's name, they went to be with the Lord on this date. And then when their obituary does come out in the paper, then she will post those also. So we have a few things that we do here. I guess that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, Rose is great. Yeah. Yeah, Rose. Very cool. Thank you guys for sharing. All right. Anybody else? What's on your mind? Go Star.
A comment that I have, and one of the, what do I call it? One of the results of COVID in our building is we had very early on, well, not early on, in May, we had 2 employees who tested positive. They were asymptomatic. At that point, we were all wearing masks. It's a good thing we were. It didn't travel anywhere, but we had to take every single person they had cared for and put them in a dedicated, we essentially cut our building in half, put a wall up, and had to move all these people into this wing. I go into the nursing home now, and it's like an apple cart that's been turned over, and there are people here and people there, and I'm going, wait a second, you're not in your right place, because we've always honored people's space as their home, and COVID just came in and took that away, and I don't necessarily like it, but we did give people the choice. Do you like where you are now? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to move back to where you were? But it has definitely impacted us, even though we didn't have any active, other than the 2 employees that tested positive. We didn't have anyone else, and I am so thankful for that. I am so thankful that we didn't end up with a real outbreak. It was kind of an outbreak that was muted because we'd been doing all these things. So it proves that if we take the steps, and I know we had conversation a few weeks ago about masks and wearing them, and I think it shows that those masks helped. So that's what I tell people when I'm out and about and I run into someone who's, you know, resisting a mask. I tell them, wait a second, I have this experience, let me share it with you. And so I just think that, you know, we see all kinds of ways COVID has impacted us. There's not just one way, it's a zillion ways. And let's just hope that we can all get through this without too much more loss, because that loss is hard. And we've been talking about loss this morning. So hang in there, everyone. And yes, we're in this together.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Very cool. Yeah, I think this builds on what you guys were talking last week, which is, you know, the trauma that people are going through and that they're going to carry from this experience, and honoring and somehow finding a way to grieve together can help with that, I think. All right, anybody else have anything on your mind? I have a couple questions, but.
I just want to say it's lunchtime. That's why she's been hanging here
Oh.
the whole time with us. I know, she keeps coming back. She's like, Mommy, lunch, come on. I tried to feed him before the call, but it didn't happen today. So everybody's hanging around. I'm being hawked by the animals, in case you don't know. I have 4 of them.
Well, I wanted to build, Jackie, you and I were talking about your leadership thing and intentionality. Were you going to say something first, though?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that for, you know, I think one of the biggest losses that I experienced here at Park Springs is that the loss of that intergenerational, you know, that part of community with having children with elders and bringing that life and that joy and the newness and the love that children bring. And there's lots of projects out there where kids are writing cards and doing notes, but nothing beats hearing the laughter of a child, you know? And for me, that's been one of the losses that, you know, we've had here, because there are days that, you know, we might have somebody, you know, who gets called into work and they say, well, I don't have anybody to watch my child. And the child might be 9 or 10 or 11, and we'll say, bring them with you. And they'll do an activity, they'll call bingo, they'll do this, do that. We can't do that anymore. And so there's none of that intergenerational mingling within the community anymore. And I think that that's a huge loss. That's a huge loss for members and elders. So that was just my point.
That's a great, and it's a great question to do. What are some different ways that we could keep something like that going? I mean, I know they can't be in the same room necessarily together, but what could we do? Because the kids are likely missing the elders as well that they've formed friendships with.
Yep, and grandparents, you know, I mean, or great-grandparents, you know, those types of relationships, those are so important. Those are so important, well, because I'm a grandma, I'm saying that, but, you know, those are very important relationships and those ties. And, you know, there's a meme on Facebook that goes around, and I see it every once in a while, and it says every time an elder passes away, history is lost because those stories are lost, and we're missing those opportunities to share those stories. Families are missing those ties right now.
Yeah.
We're able to have children come in as long as they can use a mask. But we did have and have had, you know, a new grandchild come in. Everybody else had to have masks, and you can't have a mask on a baby. So just care is always given. But yesterday, about a 3-year-old came to see her grandmother, great-grandmother, who is at her end-of-life journey. And it was just the cutest thing to see this little child, about 3 or 4 years old, walking down the hallway with her own personalized mask. And I can't remember if it was dolls or teddy bears or whatever on her mask, but it was so cute. And I took joy in it. And it was really fun to see that coming down the hallway. And I recognize we're fortunate to be able to have that. And trying to think of ways to have kids come in. You know, videos aren't the same as a real body. So, you know, you can create a video, you can hear laughter. It's not the same as the touch of a little child's hand. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure open to what can we do.
Shauna, you guys have has your child care center stayed open, or did you have to close it down, or what's going on?
No, so our child care center is still open. Unfortunately, they're not, the rules and regulations is they're not able to come into our home. Luckily, we have an outdoor play space that our elders can enjoy watching them play from, but we are missing that interaction. The relationships between the children and our elders, there's no words for it even. You know, when the child comes up and says, that's my best friend to one of our elders who isn't even able to communicate, and the bond is, yeah, unbelievable. So it has been extremely difficult. Luckily, they do have that interaction where they can watch them from a distance, but it's just still not the same. And we've had no cases with our elders either. So I think that's the hardest part is we haven't experienced any loss. So to them, we're still normal, right? We're still, you know, it's hard. It's quite difficult for them to understand why they can't do things that they used to do. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I saw something, again, this is me just like sharing stuff. So I saw something about how to safely hug someone during COVID-19. Is that something that we talked about during one of our weeks or something? And there were like pictures. So I know my grandkids came over for my husband's birthday, and I said, okay, I can't stand it. We have to have a hug. So I stood out on the sidewalk and had them come around my backside and hug me around the backside because they didn't have masks and I didn't happen to have mine on at the moment, but at least I sort of got a hug. But I think there's some ways that we could facilitate that touch in some fashion with children. I don't know. Especially with their own family. Yeah.
Our health department has allowed I call it a catch and release, a quick hug and back up. So that touch, And I'm not even going to be, I'm pretty gullible, you know, I'm pretty naive, but I know hugs have been given all along as soon as we had families come in. They just didn't do it when we were watching with eagle eyes. It's really hard to not have touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was something about turn your heads in opposite directions. Yeah, in, out, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think there's something out there about that. But all right, well, we're getting toward the end of our time. So here's one of my questions. I'd love to hear from everybody, whether you do the chat box or you share. What have you gained or learned over these last 20 weeks? Oh my gosh.
All right, so I was asked this question earlier today through the Leadership Academy through Leading Age, and I'm going to give the same answer that I gave there, if you don't mind. So for 30 years, I've been a certified dietary manager. That's a long time in one career. And when the opportunity to become the culture change trainer here at Park Springs opened up, I leapt into that role. I was I wanted to be such a huge part of making lives better, and I felt like I had reached I'd done everything I could with food service after 30 years, if that makes sense. And I have questioned that decision every step of the way, because changing careers after 50 is really scary. You know, and I just kept thinking, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right place for me? Is this, you know, because I love it. I love what I do. I am passionate about what I do. But that doesn't always make you good at what you do. Bye. My boss is leaving, sorry. And I've learned through the Leading Age Academy, as well as this call, that I have found my new purpose for life after 50. And that's making sure that as we're caring for the elders who are currently in our care, that we're treating them the right way, but also setting the journey and setting the path forward for how it is when I get to that point, or when any of us get to that point, how we want to be treated, because we're really setting it up for us. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the elders that are in care now are getting the benefit of what we're working towards. And so for me, that's exciting, and it's re-energized me, and it's helped me reconnect with purpose. And while I still get dragged into food service here, usually kicking and screaming, this for me has been almost like coming out of a cocoon, and just being able, I feel at some point now in my life that now I'm really making a difference, and that's a huge thing. So that's what I take away from this group, and this group has helped me with that growth in seeing potential and reconnecting with that purpose. And I just say thank you. But that was what I told everybody at Leading Age today, because they have also helped support that growth. Mm-hmm. You know, Walter and David have been, they've been a huge part of what my growth has been. And without having people believing in, you know, when no matter how old you are, changing careers is hard. But after 50, where people kind of you're looking to kind of settle, you know, learning something new and bringing that out, having great people to just kind of be around you and say, yes, you're doing the right thing, that's made all the difference. So I appreciate all that. But that's one thing I've taken away from this.
Yay. So yes, you're doing the right thing. I love it. Oh my gosh, there's tons in the chat box, Let's see, Lisa, gained a sense of connection, meaning, and joy during a time of isolation and big changes in my personal and professional life. Yes, you had a move in the midst of all of this, you silly lady. Flexibility is paramount, Star says. Meredith Bauman says, change doesn't have to be uncomfortable. I can be flexible. Meredith, my teammate, says, I've learned how my soul longs to be in the presence of other people. I have a new respect for sustaining relationships that I have and forging new ones. Very cool. Kathy says, I really appreciate hearing about everyone's experiences during this challenging time and the honest exchange and support among participants. You are all awesome. Imelda says, the importance of relationships in this circle, a bonding with people with a common and noble vision for aging services. I've appreciated learning about the creativity of leaders during this time. Boy, I have too, Imelda. I'm with you on that. Now, I don't know if this is Tanya because we have 3 Tanyas on the call, but whoever's this particular version of Tanya says, this experience has totally reaffirmed the impact loneliness and isolation have on us all. Yeah. And the second Tanya says, how lucky I am to live and work where I do and how important relationships are. Sherry says, we've gained more support. We know we are not alone. Yes. We have learned that we are all grieving, and it's not easy when there's no downtime. We continue to serve elders. Some days are harder than others, but we try to move forward. Being a part of this group has made us grow even more. Love you all. Thank you. Our journey continues. And Tina says, I've learned that living in the gray is the most complicated, challenging place to be, but it's also where the hard work happens. Last 20 weeks have forced so many people to live in this gray and to adopt and adjust and grow. Absolutely. Chris says, learning from the collective wisdom of this group and the diverse viewpoints presented. Thank you. So, round of applause for all of you. Anybody else want to chime in? Jane, thank you for chiming in. You helped me be hopeful during this challenging time. Thank you for all. Very good. Anybody want to add anything? Okay, so the next 4 minutes in the chat box or out loud, what do you need most to keep going? Because we don't want to like give this up. We want to like reframe it a little bit and bring it out a little bit anew. So what do you most need going forward? Specific topics, we could invite speakers. We certainly have plenty of tools to do some thinking about where we go next, what comes next, and intentionality. That's what I was talking to Jackie about earlier, intentionality as a leader. So, you know, maybe we have some conversations about, you know, can we make an impact, a bigger impact? What would that look like? And we could spend some time talking about that, but I'm seeing opportunities to connect, encouragement, support, continuing to grow and learn. What would help you the most going forward? And then our team will get on it and we'll figure out the next steps.
It's a big question, Denise. That's a huge question because I'm thinking there's all this stuff, and you know, I think, you know, one of my goals is actually to leave Park Springs, and I know that's kind of like a strange goal, but I feel like we're in this bubble, and we have the luxury of having a lot of money between Park Springs and our new sister facility, and I feel like this can't be just for people who have money. You know, this can't just be this luxury. And so one of my goals is, you know, I even had this conversation with my boss who you saw leaving and you saw me hug. It's like, where is our sense of philanthropy? Where are we why aren't we bringing this to everybody? And so that's what my goal is to be able to bring this to everybody. You shouldn't just be able to get it because you can pay, like as Jack was saying, you can pay $500,000 to buy into a community, you know, and there are lots of communities where they have people that, you know, don't have a lot of money that are doing it, but how can we make it everyone? So I don't know, maybe talking out ideas about how we can make a bigger impact in communities that people have forgotten or people have just said, nope, we don't have the money. How, you know, because there are ways to do it. So that's something that I really think we could, I don't know if everybody would think that would be a good topic to address, is how can we make this bigger for everybody?
That's a great thing to think about. And then you start thinking about the disparities of income and where people are living and what that looks like and race and all this other stuff that's coming up in the world and now. And it's like, wow, it's a big onion to peel through. It could be really interesting to talk that through. Anybody else? We're at the closing time of our time together. Anybody have anything else you want to add in terms of what do you most need going forward? Because this won't be our last conversation, I promise.
Well, I was going to say, is there something like, do we want to just try it once a month getting together? Or, you know, I mean, do we want this to continue at all? You know, do we want a once a month type thing, or, you know, or I don't know, or not? I guess maybe that would be kind of a basis to leave on, no?
I think we also need to figure out how to get more people to this format. You know, there's what of us here now, 16, 18, there's been maybe 20. There's got to be several hundred Eden Associates out there. There's got to be all kinds of people that we need to, you know, we can't mandate it, but that we tell them they have to do it or they're going to lose their pin. You know, we can't do that, but how do we get people to come?
And we're going to come collect them.
We're going to take that pin away.
Well, that was one of our thoughts, Meredith, and that's why I asked, what do you most need? Because we thought maybe if we were really more explicit about kind of the topic of conversation, that might help people choose, yeah, I want to be there for this and then maybe not that. And because we've kind of left it in open discussion form, we're thinking that maybe going forward from here, maybe just being a little bit more explicit about topics might help us. Because, like, believe me, I send out 280 emails when we're done. So there's a lot of people that have registered to process and be a part of this, but not everybody shows up. So we're thinking that, you know, if we had a more of a, and I don't like to structure it too much, but just kind of had a theme for the week or something, that might be a little bit more appealing for people to know how to spend their time, might draw a bigger audience. That's kind of where our heads are going.
Maybe also, Denise, having some testimonials from some people who have been on this the last 20 weeks, or no, it hasn't been the last 20 weeks, but for however long it's been, testimonials, because that will hit people most, I think. They'll go, oh, wow, I need that.
Okay, so I'm going to write down testimonials and topics.
Yeah, I have an idea popped into my head, but with the associate training becoming digital, going online, wouldn't that be a great opportunity, A, to get new people, you know, because when I went through it here, it wasn't online, but kind of introduce this format to people and always talk about this group through those digital through the digital trainings that they're going to go through, because what are they, 6 hour-and-a-half trainings, I think it is.
For the online associate, it's 11.
11, okay, whatever. I've only seen snippets of the emails, Meredith.
You've seen it.
Still doing 7 jobs. Forgive me. But I mean, if it was talked about in all of those sessions, that hey, don't forget you have this opportunity to meet with other people, like-minded people, you know. And then when we have the first, when you schedule the first group, make sure that the new associates that are being trained online are on those calls.
Nice. Yes, that's a great idea.
Okay.
That's yeah, if we're talking about different topics, like I know Pascal, you had put in there about the legalities surrounding the privacy issues. So maybe we could have a call around truth, trust, and transparency. You know, bring Deacon a little bit. Maybe bring a legal expert into talking about, because everybody wants to be so safe. Just what it's not a violation of HIPAA to tell people that even that people are sick. Like I know you just can't tell them why. You know, right? Isn't that the truth? Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, you know, because people be like, well, we can't tell them anything, nothing. That's what I heard. And I'm like, really? Like, I thought we just couldn't give details, right? So I know I've been back and forth with that in the community, and I think that would be an interesting, you know, for one of the calls. So that kind of format, maybe. I don't know. I like that idea.
Well, there's a lot of good ideas popped into the text box. So I'm going to stick in the chat box. So I'm going to close this out because I know people have other things to do, but I will stick around if you want to add to the chat box, and I will put into the email that follows up that we're looking for testimonials and topics, and we will create a new schedule. So this will not be the last time I hope that I get to see all of you. You just have a week or so off, and then we'll figure out how we're going to regroup. So thank you guys so much. Love you all. Take care. Be safe, please.
Bye.
Thank you.